what are the technology we are responsible for. This company is a global company. We are the very strong Indian company, but we have a worldwide presence in 165 countries. So before opening a remark on talking about Dlink as an organization, I wanted to ask you guys that how many of you are aware about Dlink as a company? Have you used Dlink product at your home, at your company, at your office, wherever you work for? Just raise your hand. Oh, that's great. It's a very exotic moment. Nilesh, I would like to just keep your hand up because we wanted to, I wanted to see that, yes, gentlemen, are you raising a hand because others are raising hand? That's the reason you are raising your hand like this? Oh, wow, that's great. That's a great number. Just hang on, sir.
You will get sweets.
You will get sweets free?
Don't take selfie.
Huh?
My apology to you because the thing should have been ready. Hey, you should say wait for Yes, coming back to this, just raise your hand and how many of you are aware about Dlink as the organization?
Oh wow, that's amazing.
It should be right here for the
Oh, yep.
More than 1 million sweets. More than 1 million sweets. Electrical component.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. That's a big hand for everybody. Now you look into this whenever you are working for, whether you are studying, you see that in your country you will find that these are the three things which has been very much essential. You can look at that wherever you are in, you are getting connected with your internet service provider. So I'll ask Elias, what is your email service provider? Who is the internet service provider for you? Because you represent to Cuba, so you must be having a different ISP, those who are giving your services to you to run your voice and data. So like this, we have multiple people from the different country, and every country has their own internet service provider, own internet domain name, where you are catering to the world to serve the services which is voice, data and video, and Dlink is providing the network platform to address that market scenario. So you can see that here we are talking about earlier everybody was using internet services which was coming from Yahoo. Today most of you must be watching lots of movies. So Netflix is one of the platforms from where you are getting it. So Netflix is nothing but the OTT technology which is the worldwide, which is the new product, the new technology innovation which has been riding it. These all are the hybrid products from the technology, and OTT has been the new product and the technology which has been coming out, and that's the reason Netflix has been offering video services to you guys. You can look at that. In any computer platform, there is one platform which is the hardware, another platform which is the software. Can hardware talk to the software? Yes or no? How they can talk to? They need a network platform, then only the hardware and software can talk to each other. Isn't it?
Yes.
So what are the network platform which has been required for? The network platform which has been required, you need to be physically connected, you need to be on wireless connected. Whatever activity which has been happening in this room, it needs to be captured into the surveillance and CCTV area. If you wanted to share your whomsoever the near and dear in your family and your workplace, whatever the contents, whatever the activities you are doing it, you wanted to share with the rest of the world, we have a product and technology which caters to IP surveillance. You need to store your whatever activities and data which has been there, so that's a storage is the one technology which has been there. Then you have a security, because wherever you go there are cyber threats which has been taking place. So we represent the 5 strong competencies which has been built up in Dlink. So we have switching, we have a routing, we have a wireless, we have a security, we have a storage, and we have a IP surveillance platform. But beyond that, there is a physical and passive infrastructure which has been required, which comes from your copper, your fiber, your racks which has been there, where you are going to host all your networking equipment. So Dlink represent all these, the product and equipment which caters to the hardware as well as the software. Now coming back to IT industry, you can look at that, all the companies, the worldwide company like say HP and Dell, they are a consortium partner to Dlink. So whatever the hardware, whatever the software they develop it, they need to create a platform where the network company like us, we can make a product which should be compatible to work on the HP platform, it should be compatible to work on the Intel platform, it should be compatible to work on the Microsoft platform. So that's the reason you can see that this slide which talks about the aligning with the industry leaders across the globe. This is the session where we will be talking more in details about it, because in household, wherever you are in, you might have seen Dlink router, Dlink broadband router. So very present, because you come with a different country, and that's a technology. Your country must be having a XDSL is a technology now. X is being, is a prefix which we keep on changing. Somebody might be having a, DCL, somebody might be having a ADCL, somebody might be having a SDSL, somebody might be having a GPON, somebody might be having a, different kind of technology which has been there, depending on, like, say, what are the application, how many people are going to download and run your, voice data and video application on the technology. But in India, we are poised to, we have a technology on the broadband which works on the 3G. It has been migrated to 4G, and now we are coming up with the 5G technology, because you will find that the worldwide, India is #1 so far as internet service provider bandwidth capacity is being concerned. We are downloading per day terabyte or zettabyte kind of a data, so that you can see that we are leading the world, because you are coming from the different country. India is leading the internet service provider, among all these 165 countries worldwide, you talk about it, and we have a great platform. So we are cruising from 4G to 5G, and you see that very soon that our network will be on the 5G. So we will talk more on details on the 5G, but this slide which talks about which we cater to the broadband market, where physically you will find that the broadband routers which has been there, we have a high-speed routers to cater to you, the main office and the branch office and the remote branches to get it connected. To touch upon this, I just wanted to touch upon, like, say you have a bank in your country. Now the banking sectors, how it happens, you go to the ATM, you put your debit card or credit card into the system, it asks for the authentication, and then whatever the money which you wanted to press in, you get it from your ATM box, and you'll be happy about it. So this is whatever the entire infrastructure behind it to make your banking transactions, happening on the one click of the button. There is a network infrastructure which Dlink caters to. Are you guys following what we are talking about?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
So whether it's a banking, whether it's your connectivity, whether you have an ERP, where, because most of the country you must be having a SAP or maybe JD Edwards kind of, the platform. Because the moment you wanted to grow your business, you need to have an ERP in the place, and ERP only works with the very strong network has been there. So our platform, as a company, we cater to a complete network platform, so that ERP application and voice and data can run on our platform. Now this is the world map. Okay, you can see that Dlink has got presence all across the world in 165 countries. So everybody, because you guys have raised your hand, so we are extremely delighted to be a part of it, that Dlink is a known brand to you guys. So these are the remarks we wanted to talk about it. We have a worldwide presence. We are working in the emerging countries position. We have very strong channel connection. We have a global talent, because you guys are learning at a part of a CETTM MTNL program. Whatever the basic skilling which has been happening, you will go back to your country, and whatever attributes and whatever knowledge and whatever the domain we have imparted with you, we will feel happy about it, that if Dlink has made any change to your lifestyle so far as to enable the technology in your country wherever you belongs to. So the last and list is Dlink is a well-known brand, because all of you have raised your hand. So I'm parking my discussion over here, because this topic will be more on the technology, which will talk about a CCTV and IP surveillance. Why it has been very much important to touch upon CCTV and IP surveillance, because when you are at home, you are away. There's only way to talk to your parents by today. You have a mobile where the video phone is been there, you are talking to them. But when you're on the move, you wanted to see what's been happening, whatever the activities which has been happening, whether the theft has been happened, or your pets are there, or where your granny is there, where your friend circles are there, you wanted to keep a watch on them, then the CCTV and the surveillance product has been very much required. Dlink has got a complete product suits which caters to the low end. Means if you are at home, you wanted to see that you are you are watched under CCTV surveillance, we have that product range. We have a complete, enterprise product range where we will be giving the entire range of a camera, which Nilesh will be explaining to you more in the technological terms so that you can understand that what type of cameras which has been required to cater the market depending on the number of customers and number of market segmentation which we have. Beyond that, we have a VMS, that's called a video management system. So whatever the hardware which Dlink gives, we have a software which takes care of entire application, and this is what the package we have built from Dlink CCTV and IT surveillance product portfolio. So I would welcome Mr. Nilesh Vartak to take a technical session on the CCTV, so that if you have any you wanted to contribute in the product development, if you wish to contribute something on the product and technology development to make Dlink product conducive to your country environment, Dlink would like to invite you to take a suggestion, because you are a brand ambassador for your country, and we wish that whatever the technical domain knowledge you have, you come forward, you become a part of this, so that we feel proud about it, that once we are having this program for a very small session, you are going back to your country and contributing to your country with the Dlink product and services with the help of CETT and MTNL program, which is it's through the Ministry of External Affairs. So thank you so much, and we wish that this relationship will keep on going in future, and we will see you soon in the next session. Nilesh, please.
So good afternoon everyone. So I hope post-lunch sessions are always boring, right? After you have your food and then it's a relaxing time, correct? So let's not be in a relaxing mode, okay? Let's have some interactions and try to understand about surveillance. What is your perception about surveillance? Have you been through the surveillance products? Have you anytime used any surveillance cameras at your home, in your office? How important it is? Yes, sir. What is your experience on the surveillance? If you can just voice out, it would be more better. Anyone can comment on it?
Surveillance.
Yeah, it's okay. It's an open discussion. Don't worry. It's not an exam that we'll have, right? So don't worry.
We use it in office areas.
Use it in office area. Okay.
For security service.
Okay. And your city bus?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So how do you think surveillance is it very important, very crucial for us nowadays?
Yes.
According to
Okay.
how we use.
Is depend upon, that's good. How we use that surveillance, okay, that's more important, right? So there are various technologies when you talk about networking as a domain, right? So you have routers, you have switches, you have telecom equipments, right? So one of the equipment I would say is the surveillance devices which get connected onto the edge layer, right? So onto your edge you have these surveillance products, and through this surveillance product the basic objective that we used to have was monitoring, right? So but things have changed. Earlier the purpose of surveillance was only for doing the monitoring purpose, right? Where you just see what the person is doing or what that activity is happening. But nowadays the trends have been changing, right? So you have seen now some concepts like, where you have the entire city as well, which is covered up by the surveillance technologies, right? With the surveillance cameras. Do you think it is helpful for you?
Yes.
It makes you more secure,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So more very advantageous, I would say, for the policing,
Yes.
right? So the advantage of surveillance, I would say, is making you yourself as more secure, more comfortable when you are away from your home, when you're watching your kids or when you're monitoring the traffic, right? So all these applications use surveillance as a technology, and a lot of things, like one basic thing that has come up, evolved, I would say, is artificial intelligence, right? So when you talk about AI is one of the application what surveillance would do further, okay? So today we'll just try to brief about what are the surveillance trends and technologies in the industry. What are the core technology solutions, certain VMS solutions that we have deployed, and some examples or some case study of how exactly the surveillance gets deployed. Okay, so we'll try to understand that through a couple of slides. And I have got some sample cameras as well, so if you want, we can definitely have an hands-on experience also to see how the camera looks like. Okay, so let's move on to the surveillance trends that we see in the country, or you can say anywhere across the globe. So one basic thing as you talk about is with smart deployments. So earlier, if you have seen, the cities which were there, so those used to get deployed with these surveillance cameras. So all the infrastructure that you have laid down will be happening now on the city part of it. But slowly as we grow, we will have safe community, we will have safe villages as well. So like now, I would say all government agencies, they concentrate more on the city infrastructure, right? Where you have a good Wi-Fi or you can say internet connection. But slowly this trend is moving on and we are having the safe cities, safe villages as well, where you'll have the connectivity for your surveillance, right? So then there are resolutions. So when you talk about a camera, what are the basic thing that you look on your mobile phone? What is the resolution of your mobile phone camera? It depends, right? Maximum how much you have? 12 MP, 6 MP, right? So what does it mean when you say in terms of resolution? What importance does it give?
The quality of picture.
It's quality of picture, right? So when you say quality of picture, what does it increase? It increases the pixel, that's perfectly right. So when you say a 4K camera, that means it has a higher resolution, right? So that means more number of pixels or dots, right? That are included in one single frame that you attach, correct? So 1 MP, 2 MP. What's the maximum resolution? What is the resolution that you have seen on the home professional cameras for your home purpose? I would say the DSLR cameras. 20 megapixel, right? Or maybe more than that. What was the maximum resolution that you've heard about? 4 megapixel, right? Okay. Do you think there are cameras which are available with 8 megapixel or 12 megapixel? Okay. It's not suitable for home, right? So for your indoor use, 2 megapixel camera is also sufficient enough, right?
Yeah, it depends where we use it.
That's correct, that's correct. So if you talk about the surveillance cameras like these that we have, okay, so the maximum resolution as of now in the industry, okay, is up to 12 megapixel that you can get, okay. So that's there for the various applications where you're deploying the camera, whether it's on the home surveillance or whether it's for the city surveillance for the junctions, right? So for such purposes, there are various modes or you can say various types where this camera can get deployed, okay. So that's one of the application. Then the other part of the surveillance when you talk about, okay, is earlier we had analog or I would say a CCTV kind of a surveillance, right? So now we have moved on into the IP surveillance as well, right? So analog is one of the surveillance where you have a BNC connection or you can say a coaxial cable and then you connect it to your internet or you can see the DVR and you can have your device made online, right? But then there is one more technology called as IP surveillance, right? So what's the difference between an analog AHD solution or you talk about an IP surveillance? What is the basic difference? Have you heard about these terms? Yeah?
Analog is the old technology.
Yeah.
New technology.
Okay. So IP is definitely the new one, but the latest developments that are happening, I would say in analog also there are a lot of new things which have come up. Okay. So if you talk about major competition globally which is there, like Ercon or you talk about Dahua, okay, these are the brands that you will see globally, okay. So all these products they are developed and they are developed on IP as well as on the analog depending upon the market, right, depending upon the requirements. So if you want to go for a cheap solution, you go always for a home base like an analog AHD solution. But when you talk about a proper professional solution, people will always prefer to go for an IP based solution, right? So that's how we have IP based or you can say IP surveillance cameras, right, through which we can have a connection. So whenever we say IP, what is the basic thing that means when you talk about an IP camera? what are the things it would require?
Network.
Okay.
Network.
Network, right? So that's the first thing. So whenever I say IP-based camera, okay, so the very first thing it will have is a network port, okay? And when we talk about an analog or an AHD solution, it will have a BNC connection. It will not have a network port. So that's the difference between the basic camera of IP and the analog part of it, okay? So that's one thing to identify. Other things I just want to understand. What is your understanding? What is there inside this box? What will it contain? It's a camera, right? But what will it have? Say the components of the camera.
Lens.
It will have one lens, right? Anything more? It will have a detector, okay.
Sensor or
So the detection would happen on the sensor,
sensor.
right? What else will the camera have inside?
IR LEDs.
It's an IR. So what do you mean by IR?
Infrared
Infrared. So what will it help for?
for night vision.
Okay. So these are the IR LEDs that you see on the device, right? So you have the infrared night vision. For that purpose, you turn on these devices automatically using the sensor, right? So what are else things? So you thought about one IR, we thought about sensor, we have the lens. What are the other components it will have? Any idea? Since this is an IP device,
Network.
and it will have a
Card.
network component, right?
Card.
So it will have a network as well. And whenever these images that you see, they need to be captured and stored onto certain device, right? So it will have some memory as well. Okay? So there is one option where it has an inbuilt memory, and the other option it will have an SD card as well. So I can connect an external storage device inbuilt in this camera as well. Okay? So that's one of the things that we can do it on the device, correct? So that's one more thing. Any other things that you feel that will be there inside this camera? I'm sorry, ma'am. It will have some movies. Yeah. So so pan tilt, right? So when she says moving it, that means it's a pan, tilt, and a zoom camera, right?
Zoom.
So I can have a pan, that means completely moving out 360 degrees, right? Tilt, I can tilt it this way, up and down, and zoom it. So we call that camera as PTZ. So PTZ camera, that means it can rotate 360 degree, which is a very bulky camera, okay? What is this camera called as? This type of camera, what will be called as?
Outside.
Outside, yeah. Some other technical term that you can guess?
Outside night vision.
What is the shape of this camera and this camera? What do you think?
This inside.
So this one would be for the inside, right?
Indoor.
So this will be called as a dome camera, right? Because it's a dome shape, right? So all these type of cameras that you see are called as dome cameras, okay? And what about this one?
Outside.
This is outside. Any specific name? Bullet. Bullet, that's right, you got it. So this one is called as a bullet cameras, okay? So we have three different basic categories. One basic category would be the dome cameras. So they come in different sizes, different shape, right? But the standard configuration would be same as it is. As you say, it would be a dome camera, okay? And all these types which are used for your outdoor purposes, especially on the traffic signals, or I would say on the junctions, or anywhere outside if you want to place it, will it be outside your building or outside your colony, right? So there will be these kind of cameras called as the bullet series of cameras, okay? So what would be the advantage of this camera and this camera? What do you think it would be the advantage? Why can't we use this as an outdoor? Is it possible?
Because the rain enter in it, water can.
Yes, so main purpose is for the water and from the sun protection. So the advantage with this type of camera, if you see, it has a sun shield. So in case if there is heavy sunlight, it can get protected, okay? All these external devices are IP66 or IP67 certified, okay? So I hope you are aware about what is IP status, right? Okay, so ingress protection, for you to have any protection from external rains, dust, water, okay, that can be protected from this, okay? So that's one of the things to highlight it. Secondly, when you do any recording, right? So for example, on your mobile phone, if you click any image, what is the format it will store? When if you click from a mobile phone an image, what is the format will it store? In JPG, right? JPEG, or you can say if you have any other format, PNG format, that can be stored across, right? So when you say a camera, it is capturing images, right? So even the camera is going to store certain images, right, onto the device. So if I have a camera which supports 1 megapixel, that means my size of the image is very less. If I say I have a camera which is supporting 5 megapixel, or I would say more than that, or 8 megapixel, my image size will be more, right? So more the images that I capture, I require more the memory, correct?
Yeah.
So to compress it, I have certain codecs. So have I'm sure you're utilizing WinZip or WinRAR, right? To compress your files, right? So similarly onto the camera, there are certain codecs which will compress the device or the images that you capture. So we have H.264, that's one of the technology, which is the earlier one. Now the technology is H.265, okay? So what is this going to do? You have multiple images. When you capture to the camera, you're capturing not only the images, you're also capturing the motion, right?
Okay.
So all these motion means what? It's a set of multiple images that you have captured it, correct? So all these images get captured and you need to encode it or you need to compress it to save onto your memory. If you don't do that, then it is going to take a huge space, right? And the hard drive cost is always very high. So you know what is the cost of one 4 TB hard drive, a SATA hard drive? Yeah, it's going to be very costly, right? So the cost of the camera is almost equivalent to more than the cost of the hard drive over there. Okay? So that's why we need to do compression. So that's one of the very critical things of video coding, that is H.264 or H.265. That's where you're going to compress the video images. Okay? So that's one thing. Next thing, earlier the surveillance part of it that you used to do, you were just going to capture the images and see the video, right? That was the only purpose. But now surveillance has gone beyond that. Okay? What we have over here now is, you can see cameras which can detect your number plate of the car. Is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah? How is it possible? How does it work? What is your understanding? I have a camera, I just place it, and your car comes in. How does it capture your image? It is because of punctuality, right? So it can capture the image of the car, okay? And then at the back end I have a software, okay? So that software will read the image of the number plate, okay? And then I can store it, or I can convert it into my Excel format. And I can get all the cars which have come inside my room, or you can say inside my colony or inside my office, right? And I can capture it. So that's one of the application. Other application, as you see, is now face recognition, right? So if I want to observe or I want to capture all the faces for people who have come into this room, it is very easy using this face recognition cameras. So instead of just capturing the images, so next time I know your name is registered onto the device. So anytime you come in, I don't need to mark my attendance by signing on the form. Okay? So I just place a camera, I register yourself. Every time you come in over here or move into CETTM premises, automatically it will capture that you are at this location. Okay? So that's one of the applications that we're talking about, the surveillance. Okay? So there are various kinds of such applications. It's not only related to now face recognition or the number plate. We have environmental analysis, which can be done using these surveillance cameras as well. Okay? So that's one of the good things that we can deploy. Lastly, so whatever these models that we have, okay, all these models can give you warning based, or you can say advanced surveillance systems, wherein any prediction, especially if you're using artificial intelligence, right? So all these things learn information using these information that is captured using the CCTV, or you can say surveillance cameras. Okay. So just to give you a brief on the applications where you can utilize the surveillance cameras. So you have government applications, you have tourism. How do you think the camera can be deployed on tourism? What's your idea? When I say tourism, I want to have these cameras deployed. So smart tourism, that's what the term we call it in technical, okay. So to smartly, I would say I have a facial recognition camera. I capture the person's face, okay, and whenever or wherever this person moves across, I can have this information tagged so that he is safe and secure, and anytime there is any activity that happens which is suspicious, we can track it using this system, okay. So that's one of the application. In medical industry, right, we have a lot of surveillance cameras now which are deployed where you can have the complete analysis of the operations that are going on. So now all operation theaters where you have to just, the earlier cameras were deployed, now these cameras can do the complete recording. You can see inside your intestine, right, what is happening using these cameras, right. So I can insert a camera inside your body and move across everywhere, okay, and see what the things are. So that's one of the certain application. Other application to talk about is intelligent transport system, okay, which is traffic management or used for the traffic purpose. So just to give you a hint, wherever you see in evening, usually in the peak times, there is a certain roads which are very much crowded, right? So I want to block or divert the traffic. So all this traffic diversion or anything that can be managed using these surveillance cameras that I have, okay. So that's one of the critical applications. So just to show you in the format where how these applications will deploy. So surveillance cameras are usually the end devices, right? So where your devices or you can see the entire network can get connected. So I can have, let's say for example, the society, or I can say government organization, or I can say hospitals, right? So the entire area, or I would say city, I can map it out using these surveillance cameras which I will place across the city everywhere, okay. And along with this, I place my sensors. Now sensors are the critical things which will analyze or give you alerts onto your device, right? So that's one of the key things which I can do using these sensors, okay. So together all these devices are connected to my backbone, or you can say to my entire network, okay. So using the backbone connectivity that I have, okay. So my entire network can get connected to all the cameras that can access using this type of a connection, okay. So with this, what will help out? I have one small, I would say one central location wherein all these things I can connect it using a cloud platform, okay. So using one single cloud platform, I can have my data collected from all the points that I have in my city, okay, and we can link it up to disaster control, or you can say emergency control that we have, okay, and all these linkages, whenever there is a storm kind of a situation or any such challenges that are coming across, the devices over here can set alerts to the different teams that are there on the field, okay. So prevention of anything that happening, for example any earthquake happening, or you can say thunderstorms which are going to come, all this information can be gathered and you can say scattered across the city very easily using this surveillance as an approach, okay. So I gather this information, and then everything that is there, I can link up all my teams usually on this one single mobile platform, okay. So on the cloud platform, I have my data using, which is from the surveillance team, from the sensors, and all linked up together. I can ensure I can have security for live, for production, for traffic, or for society. All the security parameters can be linked together using one single platform, okay. So that's one of the things that can be done using the surveillance part of it, okay. The other thing to highlight, okay, on the camera that we talked about. So this camera now is not only just one device which can capture images and record, okay. This camera can also do all these things onto one single device directly, okay. So how will it do it? So it has option wherein perimeter change, if anyone comes into the device, or you can say the camera range, automatically it can give you the alerts, okay. So what are these? These are small little alerts which the camera can give you an update, okay. For example, crosswire or any object movement, or if there is any device or you can say mobile phone that I have kept on my table, and automatically someone just picks up and runs away, okay, what I can do is I can set up left object as an alert over there, okay. So with this perimeter, crosswire, object movement, or you can say converse or multiple loitering, all these things are my analytical features of to my one single camera. So the camera is not only just used for your capturing of the images, it is now much more intelligent, okay. So you want alert, for example, only when someone comes at your door, right? You don't want an alert every time anyone, just coming in, or you can say if your dog is coming in inside, right? So I can capture my sensitivity or my zone and have these kind of alerts set it up onto the device, okay? So that's one of the application that we can see on the mobile networks, or you can see on the surveillance platform, okay? Then coming on to the camera part of it, there are different types of, I would say, applications that you can see. So one such camera, okay, if you talk about, is with the in-wire dome camera, okay. So what's this camera all about? Instead of these wires which are hanging outside, I can have a camera which all the wires can connect onto the PCB itself. So ensuring that there is no disconnection or anyone can remove that camera from my network. Okay. So that's one of the advantage using this kind of cameras. Okay. So I don't need to connect the camera directly. I can have this in-wire camera wherein automatically all my devices or wires which are coming in, they can get connected onto the device itself. Okay. So that's one of the application. Storage space, as we talked about. Okay, so we have different kinds of storage where H.265 plus is going to reduce your storage space up to less than 25% as well. Okay, so that's where of the storage will come up, and higher resolutions can be recorded on using this device. So when we talk about the cameras, okay, so let's see the different types of cameras that you can see over here, right? So one such application, I would say you are talking about the PTZ camera, right? So we thought about this pan, tilt, zoom camera. So which one of these looks like the PTZ camera? The one with the black one, right? Yeah, with the dome, right? So that's one of the PTZ cameras, okay? And then we have small mini dome cameras which are used for smaller applications, correct? And we also have the NVR. So when you do a camera, it is just going to capture the image as well as do the recording. But where are you going to store the device? Where are you going to capture the images? Okay? So you require one recorder.
DVR.
Right? So we call it as a DVR, which is used for your analog part of it. If you have an analog camera or an HD camera, okay, you will use a DVR over there. Okay? And whenever you have an IP-based camera, it will be called as a network video recorder, or we call it as an NVR. Okay, so that's how the classification would be. I have a DVR for your analog devices and NVR for your networking, or you can say IP-based solutions. Okay, so we have NVRs, we have the DVRs, then we have the pan, tilt, zoom cameras. Okay. And there is one unique camera, if you see, the one in between, okay. So you see this camera, this one. This is which is very in cylindrical mount, right? So this one, this camera, what's it called? It's a fisheye camera, okay. So have you seen this type of camera anywhere? The fisheye camera, okay. So if this camera is applicable for locations where you have a large area to cover, okay. So wherever there is a large area that you want to capture it, at that locations you will have the fisheye series of cameras, okay. So I can get a complete holistic 360-degree view using such kind of cameras, okay, which is called as a fisheye camera, okay. So that's one of the applications. And then, have you heard about thermal cameras? Yes? Not you have seen? Okay. So there are thermal cameras also into the device wherein you can view the laser vision. Instead of just a normal vision, you can get a black and white, or else you can say X-ray vision for a very, very long distance using these kind of cameras. Fine? I'm just not sure. Oh. I can see buttons at the end.
He didn't think you are getting. He think you are getting
No, it's very
attention
slow.
because you why? Because it's scared for everyone, but not you.
No problem.
I know, but he think.
Yeah, he thinks that I'm wearing this Dlink.
I think so, it's that side.
Mangal. Mangal.
Okay.
Yeah, this is todo el certificate كلهم دي certificate كان بس يروح يسيدي كمان كسيدي فمزاك كان هو بتشوفه أو ده غم ده ما هو برش ورد طب ده يوقع يبقى خلاص ده زي مذاكرة
Okay, comfortable? Good. Okay, we'll continue. So with Dlink, what we have is, we have a huge product portfolio. Okay. So to name from some of the cameras that we have an IP surveillance cameras which are there in 2 megapixel. We have in 4 megapixel as well. Okay. Then we have the fisheye series of cameras as well as the PTZ. Okay. Now what each of these cameras mean like? So we have a fixed lens camera, and then there is a varifocal series of camera. So when I say varifocal means what? Any idea? I can zoom in or zoom out with the lens, right? So your professional cameras, like on your mobile phone, you can zoom in, zoom out using the application that is there on the web screen that you see. Similarly, on these cameras, okay, I can zoom into it or I can zoom out using the web GUI. That means web interface that I have for this camera, okay. Using that web interface, I can easily get into the device and change in or change out from the device, okay. So that's one of the feature with this cameras, okay. Then we have the PTZ cameras which are there with 2 megapixel resolution with 3 megapixel resolution as well. And we also get, now these pan tilt zoom cameras, the speciality is they cover a much more longer distance because these cameras get deployed in open areas, right? So when I say these open areas, that means I can cover a distance in night vision of more than 100 meters or 200 meters as well, okay? So one single camera, if you see with this type of PTZ, it is usually placed on a very much big height, okay? And from this one single height, you can see all the details related with the floor, or you can see on the ground. So if I connect this camera on the 5th floor of the building, okay, I can easily zoom in, zoom out, and see the entire area on the road. So that's one of the advantage using these PTZ kind of cameras, okay. And once you do the camera activity, you have the recordings also that can be done, okay. So the recordings that we do, they go on to this recorders, right? So we have different kinds of recorders. We have an 8-channel recorder, or you can say a 6-channel recorder. So what does this mean? On one single device, or you can say NVR, I can connect either 8 cameras or I can connect 16 cameras for recording purpose. So it goes into 8, 16, 32 or 64, right? So on each of these recorders, I have a restriction of number of cameras that I can get connected, okay? So not on all devices I can connect all the cameras. On each device, I can connect either 1 camera or you can say 2, or maximum I would say on one NVR, I can connect up to 8 or 16 cameras on this, okay? So that's one of the advantages that we can see on the recorder part of it. So what this recorder box will do is, it will have one storage device okay, or one hard drive, and on this hard drive I will have all the recordings which will be done. Okay, so all my recordings that we see, they get stored onto this hard drive, and I can do multiple days recording. I can do either for 30 days or up to 90 days recording on my one single hard drive of 4 TB or 6 TB. Okay, so I don't need to change my recordings every day. Automatically it will override, and one single device, or you can say one single camera, almost consumes up to 20 GB of data that you have. So 20 GB of storage is consumed for one single camera. Okay, so I can have such multiple cameras, and I can calculate, or I can say estimate the storage which I require for such devices. Okay, so that's how the storage calculation can be done, and I can have multiple such devices that I can connect to my DVRs, or I can say the NVRs, and the recordings will happen on it. So advantage is I can do all my analytics. That means I can do the playback of my recordings. Okay, so any recording which is being played across, I can do a playback. I can see my old files, any event that happens, say for example a robbery that has happened, or some theft has happened onto a device, onto the premises. I can easily recover which person who has gone inside and tried to get that information using these recorders. Okay, so that's one thing. Plus apart from that, the intelligent analytics that we talked about. So I can just see from the recorder how many people have come inside the room and gone on the room. I don't need to see the entire recording. I can have a motion-based recording as well done onto the device. Okay, so that's one of the key features that we can have with this kind of products. Okay, where you can listen to it, you can hear the audio as well. So these cameras have an audio port. I can connect an external mic or an internal mic on the device, and I can easily view these audio part of it. Okay, so that's one of the advantages that you can see. So one such example to show about is the resolution. So we were discussing about different types of resolution, right? So 12 megapixel resolution camera, if I connect it onto a height at, say for example, of 100 meters, I would say, about 30 to 40 meters, and if I zoom into it or take an image of it, I can see very clearly about the statue which is over here, placed over here. So that's the advantage. Very far off, even though I'm connected, higher resolutions will give you more clarity, more depth onto the image. Okay, so at such locations, you require these high resolution cameras, that is the 12 megapixel or more higher than that. Okay, so that's one of the advantages using such kind of high resolution cameras. Okay, then there are cameras which are using a starlight, or I would say a low light illumination devices. Okay, so what does this mean? If you take a camera in very low lighting environment, you would get a dark image, right? So what will happen is, when I use a starlight series of cameras, even though in a dark environment, I can get a colored image that can be revealed onto my device. Okay, so that's the advantage of such kind of cameras that we have. Okay, which is called as the starlight, or you can say low light series of cameras. Then you have the WDR cameras. Now usually what happens is, if I place a camera which is near to the window, outside there is very bright sunlight, right? Okay, and image inside is very much darker. So if I click on my camera this image, what will happen is I will get a very dark image inside the room, and whereas outside it is going to be showing very brightness over there. Okay, so to control that, I use this function called as WDR, which stands for Wide Dynamic Range. Okay, and one such application through which I can control, or you can say light environment. So one such example, like tunnel. If you have a tunnel which is passing through, and if you want to position your camera over there, I require a camera which has a WDR effect. Okay, so what will this will do? If, as you see outside the tunnel, immediately there is a very strong white light. Okay, so to control that, we have the sensors onto the device which will ensure that any strong light is minimized and you get a better image, or you can say much more clearer image for the dark objects which are there inside the tunnel. Okay, So that's the use of such kind of cameras, okay, that we have. Then we also have the 4K resolution cameras. So now we talked about 4K resolution, which is 4096 into 2160, okay. So those many number of pixels which will be there onto the device, okay. So such kind of cameras are utilized for large area monitorings. You can say complex environment, or you can say a business park, okay. So such locations we can use these kind of 4K devices so that you can get much more clear image onto the device, okay. That's one thing. For large areas that you have, for example, in open areas, I can utilize a panoramic camera. So what does this panoramic camera would do? So one single camera has 4 different lenses. So let's assume that we had just one camera. Now this is 4 cameras built into one device. Okay, so that's the advantage over here. So one single device is there, and inside that device there are 4 different lenses. Okay, so you can get 4 different views captured together, and the image that you will see is going to be a stitch image, right? So as you see your clothes, you stitch it, right? You join 2 portions over there. So similarly, the camera, or you can see the video, has a feature where it can join multiple images together and give you one single output. Okay, so such kind of devices are there wherein multiple things can be stitched together, and you can have an output which is more precise and much more better. Okay, so that's one of the application. Other application to talk about is a thermal technology. Have you heard about this thermal technology? Not much. Okay, so what will it will do? It will give you images which are very dark, or you can say black and white in your X-ray, like how you do X-ray of your body, right? So the thermal cameras also give you images which are in black and white mode. What is the advantage of this? When I say a thermal camera, I can cover a very long distance, and even though there is no light, it can still give you an image. Okay, so usually, for example, forest kind of environment, or you can see your airport friends, so your defense, right? Or for example, industries like oil refineries which are there. Okay, outside these refineries there is a huge area which is very much open, and there is a chance of intrusion or people coming inside from there. Okay, to protect that, you can utilize such kind of thermal cameras which will give you practical, you can say, images of a person or any intrusion that is happening through. Okay, so one such application to show over here is with the solar power station monitoring. Okay, so you have a solar power station. I can monitor what is the status of the solar power station using the temperature algorithm that is there. So I can run and see what are the temperature on these solar sites, okay, and get what's the information out over there.
Be wise.
Okay, so that's one of the application. Other application to talk about is on-board police application, wherein on the police vehicle, okay, I place this thermal camera, and this camera is now with a dual lens. So one is with the normal lens, the other is with the thermal lens. Okay, so with this one single camera, I can do close as well as with the remote monitoring very easily. Okay, so that's one of the application where I can place this camera onto my police vehicle. Okay, for example, and whenever this police vehicle moves across the city, it will automatically capture the images that is happening within the vicinity. So maybe near off or any far off application that I have, the police can easily track using this kind of cameras which are deployed onto the device, onto the car, or you can see on the vehicle which is there. So that's one of the application. I just place the camera onto my car and monitor complete 360-degree whatever is happening through. Okay, so that's one of the practical onboard application of this device. Yeah.
Mobile tracking is also
Yes. Mobile tracking as well. So in case if anyone is on the move, so this camera can be viewed onto your mobile phone directly as well. Okay. So any such activity, suspicious activity that you see can be threat that can be monitored or can say alerted to the base station immediately. Okay, so that's one of the thing. So one such, I would say, alliance, or you can say the program that we run across is whenever you do the recording, you need to store the images and analysis. Okay, so we have VMS, or I would say video management system. So what does this VMS does? I have a recording that will be captured onto the NVR, right? So that is useful if you have 32, 64 cameras deployed. But if you have 5,000 cameras, see for example a smart city kind of a project or city surveillance project, okay, wherein you have 5,000 cameras. So I cannot have 5,000 recorders, or I would say 1,000 recorders placed at every location. What I can do is I can get the information onto my central storage, or you can say onto the central server, okay, and on this server I can deploy these third-party applications. One of the application is Nuvo or AxonSoft, or you talk about Milestone or I2V, okay. So these are the application, or you can say video management solutions, wherein I can do the recording of the camera and store it onto these servers, okay. So on the server I have a backup, I have a failover, and all other settings that I can do onto my server based devices, okay. So that's one of the applications where I can have the VMS, or you can say complete system that can be managed across using this device, okay. So that's one of the usage of the surveillance platforms, okay. So now since we have done with the brief understanding, let's see where we can deploy these kind of cameras. So one such example to talk about is with the city surveillance. So in the cities, I can have these cameras deployed onto a single device, okay, or onto the highways, for example, and monitor the entire highway traffic management using these surveillance cameras deployed at certain zones, okay. So that's one of the application. So have you heard about this place Goa?
Yes,
In India?
we are going to.
You're going over there?
Yeah, we are planning.
That's great, that's great. It's one place to be over there, right? So enjoying beaches.
We have planned to go.
Definitely, you should
Next
visit
week.
Goa, right? Okay. So on the state highway of Goa, you see there are surveillance cameras which are being deployed by Dlink. Okay. So that's one of the application where you can see, the surveillance camera deployment. Okay. Other application to talk about is on the schools, or you can say nowadays on colleges. So all such government institutions that you see, they have these surveillance cameras which are deployed, okay. So we have various colleges where we have deployed, such kind of surveillance devices. That's one of the practical application, okay. And then to talk about is with the data center. So data center is one of the very crucial in places, right, where you need to have a surveillance deployment. So D-Link has this architecture, okay. So we talk about the surveillance architecture over here, wherein I have multiple sites at multiple locations. So if you see over here, there are 3 different cities that are connected together using the internet connection, and on one single platform, or you can say one single screen, I can see what is happening in India, I can see what is happening in US, or I can see what is happening in Europe, right? So multiple locations can be connected using the internet connectivity, okay, and onto one single application I can view all the cameras that are deployed, okay. So that's one of the practical application of such kind of devices that we have. So if you see this architecture over here, wherein at a central location I have central monitoring server, so that is called as a CMS, okay, and then I can have web clients, or you can say users, which are getting connected to see what is happening in that area. So I have multiple locations. For example, over here we have shown Delhi, we have shown Bangalore and Mumbai, okay. So at multiple locations you have these surveillance cameras which are deployed, and onto the server based applications I have this entire platform, or you can say software, that is deployed. Okay, so that's one of the key things for deployment. So to add up over here, so the customers usually when they deploy such kind of a solution, what do they get? Is state-of-the-art megapixel cameras that are there. Okay, they will have an SD card slot on the camera, so I can do the camera edge-based devices recording as well. Okay, I can have motion-based detection, I can have a privacy-based masking that can be done, and all these cameras support power over Ethernet. Have you heard about this term PoE?
Yes.
Yes. What does it PoE does? I don't need to have a power adapter, right? I can just connect my switch, or I would say a Wi-Fi access point, without using a power source. So my switch is now capable of sending power as well. Not only data, I can send power through my Ethernet port, right? I can have the entire device powered on using the one single Ethernet port. Okay. So for example, this access point, I would say, you see over here, this is also one of the PoE device which is connected, right? So that's one of also the other applicant that can be utilized using such kind of device. Okay. So we have multiple such products part of it. Let me just brief you on certain things on the technical front. Just 5 to 10 minutes, not more. Okay.
Tea break, tea break, tea break. Right, I mean, all our mister is common. No, all mister. Yeah. So, no mister
Okay.
is no problem.
So just to continue on this, we were
that means
discussing
that
about
like
different types of lenses, right? Okay. So we had this fiber optic lens, I would say optical lens, wherein we talked about a varifocal and a fixed lens type, right? So fixed lens camera, as you see, has only fixed views. If I place this camera on the top of this dome-shaped camera, okay, so if I place this camera, I can see the entire classroom from here using this one single device, okay? But if I want to zoom in to specific people who are sitting at the back, right, who are doing some other activities, I can just connect this camera and zoom onto the devices, or I can see on the people sitting at the behind. So that's going to be more helpful for them, right? Okay, to monitor it. So that's one of the application, okay, where you can have multiple views using the camera. The other thing is that to highlight is on the sensor. So you have seen there are multiple. So sensor is one small device which will, capture the image and reproduce it, right? So you have a sensor size and different types of resolution. So smaller the sensor size, better is, I would say, larger the sensor size, better is the resolution that you can get, okay? So to see over here, the number of pixels that you can support it on one single size is going to be far more better. So just to show over here, we have 1/3" sensor, 1/2" sensor, okay? So better the sensor size, larger the area that it will capture, and more clear images that you can get using this device, okay? So that's one of the practical applications. Then other thing to show is on the field of view. So I connected camera, and you should be aware of it, how much angle will it cover, okay? When I'm positioning or connecting a device, I need to ensure what is the angle of view that one single camera can see. So usually such kind of dome cameras, okay, they can cover up to 80 to 85 degrees. So if imagine I connect the camera over here, I cannot see the person who is just standing near the board, okay? So that's the limitation of the device. And whenever we talk about the bullet series of cameras, or we would say this type of cameras, okay, the field of view, or you can say angle of view, is much more narrow. Whereas over here, my field of view is much more brighter, or you can say wider over here, okay. So that's what you have to highlight. So bigger the lens, lesser is the field of view that you can get. Just to show you a comparison, if I have a 3.6 mm lens, okay, and at the distance of 5 meter, I can see the entire area in a wide angle if you see in this way, the first picture. But if I use a 12 mm lens at the same distance of 5 meters, I can get specific image of to that vehicle, or you can say of that number plate very easily. Okay, so that's one of the practical application using such kind of devices that we have. Okay, so talking about WDR, as we discussed earlier, WDR series of cameras. So wide dynamic range. So if I connect this camera over here and the back image that you see, it will be very dark images that you will get. Okay. If I turn the backlight compensation on, which is called as BNC, what will happen is the backside image will be completely white and the inner portion will be completely dark, or you can see it inside images. But when you use the WDR as a function, what can happen is images inside the premises and outside, both of them can match together and you can have a very good images. So that's the view of WDR images that you can get. Okay. Other point to highlight is on the noise, where different noise using the electrical currents that pass through the device, okay, that could also cause disturbance. So this disturbance can be avoided using the 2D noise reduction features. Okay. Coding we discussed, and last point to highlight is on the FPS, that is frames per second. Now what does this mean, FPS or frames per second? That's the full form of it. What is your understanding? So how many images are captured in 1 second? How many times you can click on from your mobile phone on one single image?
Maybe
Just 1, 2,
3.
right? Or maximum 3. You have a feature where you can click multiple images. In certain phones, have a feature where I can just place the camera, I can click multiple images in 1 second. Okay? So when you talk about these surveillance cameras, they have a feature called as frames per second. What this will do, in 1 single minute, or you can say 1 single second, how many images are captured? So that will determine the FPS. Okay? So more number of frames that are captured in 1 single second, that means more number of images are getting stored, more clarity that you can get onto the device, or you can say recordings when you view it. Okay, so that's the advantage when you use a higher FPS. So one single application to talk about, we have a high speed moving vehicle onto the highway, right? And I want to capture the image of the number plate of that vehicle. How will I capture that image? I need to have a camera which will have this feature of FPS, that is frames per second. By its default, it supports up to 30 FPS, but other cameras which are used for such applications, they have 60 FPS. Now what does that mean? In 1 second, it can click 60 images. Okay, so don't you think it's useful? So 30 images are being clicked across by 1 single second. That's the effect of this camera. Okay, so whenever I have such applications, I can utilize such kind of devices. Okay, and have a good connectivity onto these cameras. Let's get a presentation. Okay, so any motion that you have that can be easily captured using such kind of cameras. So for example, as we talked about a high speed vehicle, 60 frames per second, that means 60 images are captured using one single device, or you can say in 1 second. So if the chances of getting the number frame, if your vehicle is moving at 80 kilometers per hour, or you can say 100 kilometers per hour, you can easily capture the image and get a complete view of the device. Of the vehicle that is there. So that's one of the critical thing that can be utilized for your applications, okay, where you can utilize such kind of surveillance cameras, okay. So more to highlight upon this is about okay. So nowadays when you talk about resolutions, to highlight it, okay, we have cameras which are there with HD, or you can say ultra high definition, which is a 4K, and there are much more higher resolutions which is with 8K resolution as well. So the camera trends, as you see, goes from 1 megapixel, which is the standard ones, right? 1 megapixel, 2 megapixel, which you use for your home applications. Whereas you go on the airport security, where there is a big wider area that you need to cover, right? For such things, you can utilize cameras which are up to 8 megapixel, or you can say 8K resolution also supported. Okay, so that's one of the advantage. So one thing to highlight over here is, say for example, you're using your practical application of the varifocal lens. When you talk about, we have a cricket match which is going on, right? Right? And you see the people who are clicking pictures, who are there on the side of the stadium. How do you think you get a clear image using one single camera which is there approximately, I would say, 50 meters away, right? How do you think you can get a clear image of that? Is it possible? The cameras are placed outside the boundary, right? So how do you get a clear image from it?
HD camera.
They use HD cam, yes. What more? They would be using high resolution, okay, and they would be using a different kind of lens. Okay, if you see the lens, it's very much longer, right? So they use these kind of high definition images as well as a lens which can cover a wider area. So if you talk about the comparison, if you see a camera which is having a small 700 line or 1 megapixel, whereas if you see a 4K resolution camera, it will give you much more clear and crisp images whenever you are trying to view it. Okay, so that's the advantage of such kind of devices, or you can say such kind of applications. Okay, so many such things can be done using the surveillance cameras that we have. I have a couple of cameras over here. We can just try to connect. We have time, sir, or we have a hands-on session. Okay, okay. Well, it's better then we have more discussion, because that will take time.
Business sila may camera lang. Sila yung internet na sila company. Kasi company na sila tayo.
Okay. Wind it up. Okay, that's short of time, right? Yeah, sure.
Sir, you didn't talk about the drone and flight cameras. What was the side of like this?
Sorry?
You didn't talk about this drone and flight cameras.
Yeah.
You do have in Dlink that camera?
No, those cameras are specifically used for, when you talk about drone cameras, okay,
And flight cameras.
then in-flight cameras, those are completely different applications to talk about, okay. But the practical application or usage would be the same. They would be having a wider lens. As you see, they are at a very height, okay. So definitely the lens part of it will matter most over there. So the sensor size, or I would say the megapixel would be the same, up to 12 megapixel or maybe more than that. But the sensor is much more critical. They will have a much more wider sensor which will cover the large area that you capture it. So drone cameras are not a part of the surveillance it's a part of the surveillance monitoring system as well. But Dlink as such would not have, such cameras as of now.
Oh.
So yes, so these cameras are also there.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the things. Any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much for your time, and I hope the session was informative. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
3G and
Okay,
4G. Sorry, but these cameras, there's one takes 3G SIM or 4G or 5G.
Yes. So this can be connected with the SIM card as well.
SIM card.
No, don't.
Yes.
No
Muhammad
cable.
Pur.
No.
Nothing. You can have such wireless
All
cameras
are
as well.
Mr.
You can utilize those.
Connect server directly.
Yes.
Its
you can
number
get that.
is-
It has an LTE module.
All are known in Mr.
Okay.
See, Cypher.
Thank
If you remove this Mr. It's no problem. It will be rated in the certificate worldwide, not in this one. It's Mr. is normal.
Is okay or not?
Okay. So we have an
It's
concluding note by Mr. Sudhanshu. Okay. So just 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, dear friends, how was the session? Did you enjoy? How's the basic learning which has been there? Is it something to learn from here? So we look forward to a participative engagement. We will try to bring some feedback mechanism. And this PPT, whatever Nilesh has discussed it about the product technology implementation, it will be shared with you. So you guys can take advantage of our program, because this program is not like what we are talking about, the product as a technology. If you are a technocrat, if you understand the technology, we are here to help you how to design the network, how to maintain the network, and how to troubleshoot the network, right? So there are 3 things which is very much important for all of you: designing the network, maintaining the network, and troubleshooting the network. Is there anything which has been remaining which we need to address? I want to hear from you. What else you need? You wanted to design the network, you want to maintain the network, you want to troubleshoot the network. What else is required? Nothing else is required. If you do this, whether you're working for your own organization or whether you're working for your customer satisfaction will be 100%, and you'll be delighted wherever you are working for. So thank you very much for your time and patience. And it's a good occasion to be among you all. We look forward that we will be keep on coming again wherever you are. Your contact details has been already there where we have captured it. Even if you are not in India, you are away from India, we are always connected with you, because today's world is, we can have a physical connectivity, but irrespective wherever you are part of the world, the social connects is the more intellectual connects. Okay, so keep connected and stay connected. Keep whatever the best thing which is there in you, bring it out of it. Dlink is there to endorse you, make you a better technocrat in this world, so that you feel proud about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would request all of you, those who are, because here the government of India, the logo has been there, I would request you all to just return it back to us. And after this, we will take one group photo over here, and then there is another group photo which will go as a memory, because I don't know when we are going to meet again. Okay, so the picture will be in our heart, and we will take it downstairs on the main gate of the CETTM. Okay, so the there is a 2 photo session. One is over here, and one will be down on the downstairs. Please return it back. The snaps which you have it. Yeah. No. Yeah, Nilesh, take it back.